All right, we're live. We are waiting on Austin, but it's the Balcony Gang.
Yes, sir. The Balcony Gang.
Kai Carlin is with us. We are here for you to answer some of your questions around what to expect. We are on the eve of training camp. We have an Eagles game coming tonight. So we were just talking. Kai, what are your expectations for the Eagles tonight?
Pain.
The forecast.
Lots and lots of pain. I really don't think they have a shot.
Yeah. The forecast is pain.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll give the Eagles this. I feel like their defense is okay. I think the defense is all right, but
right.
I mean, they can't move the ball. Carson Wentz looks like he's regressed a little bit. There's definitely a lot going on with the Eagles where it's I have zero faith in you really winning this game against a very good Seahawks team. And they honestly play well in the Eastern time zone too. That when they travel cross country, they do a pretty good job in this time zone. So
yeah,
it's hard to see the Eagles winning.
They've got a good coaching staff, good quarterback. It's had a little bit of an off year, I guess, but we'll see about that. Okay, so we've got let's see, we've got people streaming in, and let me look at Twitter. And first off, Kai, training camp starts tomorrow. What are your expectations, just at a high level?
What do you mean? Like coming up for a roster standpoint?
Yeah, from a roster standpoint, are we gonna get a sense before the first preseason game of what the player sort of rotation packages are? Who do you see playing in that starting lineup? Who do you think is a dark horse to make the team, or maybe a surprise cut?
Okay, the starting lineup is an idea, Jason, that I've kind of tossed around a lot because the only definites are going to be, Simmons, Harrison, and Embiid. And then, you kind of figure out the shooting guard and the small forward spots. But honestly, I actually had this debate with our good friend Austin over on the Bell Ringer podcast last week. And we both kind of think that Seth Curry will definitely get a look. Danny Green will get a look. Matisse Thybulle will get a look. Shake Milton will definitely get a look. And there he is. Look at Austin. Look at this man. Look at this dude. You know what, Austin? I was actually talking to Jason about the starting lineup question that you and I kind of tackled last week on my podcast over at the Bell Ringer. And you know what, Austin? I'm coming down to Ben, Seth, Danny, Tobias, and Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the logical way to go with it. I'm still going to lean hard into my info and say it's going to be Shake.
Yeah, I think Shake's going to get there. I think continuity is still going to be a factor. So you've got a new coach, but a new coach doesn't want to just come in and change everything, right? So there's something to be said for the guys who were here with this team 2 months ago in the bubble, 3 months ago. Just sort of knowing where they're going to be, where their spots are going to be, limiting turnovers early in the season by starting with the guys that know each other a little bit. So my guess is that Shake will get the first opportunity. Now, if he gets his doors blown off every day in practice, we've got no reason to think he's not been in the gym and really working on his game. He's a pretty dedicated guy. But, if Seth Curry is hitting from 30 feet to 35 feet consistently, you got to put him on the floor as much as you can.
Who do you think is going to have a larger margin of error between, I guess the largest margin of error between Danny, Shake, and Seth? Like with the coaching staff, who are they going to give who are they going to be more forgiving with mistakes, I guess, would be the way to rephrase
that. Jason, you want to go first on this one?
I think Shake's got the biggest margin of error just because of his youth. If you start seeing bonehead plays from the the older guys, then you get concerned. I also think he's got defensive upside. The other two guys, you start seeing that they just have lost a step and can't defend. These are not things that just get better with more play time. I think Shake, there are some things you see where he struggles and then works through those struggles. The other two guys, I think, probably have a smaller margin of error, but they're more seasoned vets. They're probably less likely to disappoint as well.
Now, real quick, I guess like when it comes to the Sixers rotation, I guess what like Austin, you were saying about your intel with Shake. I guess you could see Shake in the starting lineup, but then at that point, who do you start next to him though? Like that would kind of be my question to you. Like if you were to go to Ben, Shake, who would you start at the 3 with Tobias and Joe?
Well, I mean, so I try to look back to some of the quotes that they give us in their press conferences, and I think for one of the hints that they sort of gave us in one way or another was that they're not going to view it by position. They're going to view it by what's the best group to have on the floor that maximizes, the team's chances of having a positive impact lineup for the stretch that they're in there. And so I don't think that they're going to look at it in terms of like, okay, who is a small forward? It's going to be, we have Tobias, who would like to get the ball in the pick and roll, let him operate. We have Ben Simmons, who's a beast in transition, and we have Embiid, who needs space on the block. What are the pieces we need around those 3 in the opening lineup to get the most out of them? And I think that boils down to, some combination of Seth, Danny, and Milton, regardless of size or traditional positioning. I just don't think they're going to view it that way.
So then at that point, I'd go Shake and Seth. Because they're both guys who can shoot the basketball, they can put the ball on the floor, they can create for themselves and others, which is something this team has been needing for a little while now. So to that point, if you're not going to go by position per se, you just go with the best lineup around Ben and Joel. I think you have to go with Shake and Seth.
Yep. Sam Bethia says, "What's up, guys? Just checked. Did the Sixers give a 2-way contract to Dakota Mathias?" The answer is yes.
I did.
He's one of the 2-way contracts.
And my cap sheet has not been updated yet, so I'll have to. Once we have the contract information, I'll be able to say it.
Nadir Glenn Robinson signed with the Sacramento Kings yesterday, so I believe that is a done deal. Let's go to another comment. Shake, I don't think is starting caliber yet. He's way too thin and weak. He gets knocked around and moved off the ball a lot, especially when defending. He gets pushed like crazy. So I think there's some truth there, Ryan. Shake's got to develop more strength in the lower body. He's got to get a little bit quicker. We've talked about it on here before, so I think you're not wrong, and he acknowledges this. Some of the first conversations he and I have had were about building that lower body strength to get a little bit more explosion. So not wrong at all. I think that's fair. Anything you guys want to add?
Honestly, I thought Shake played pretty well in the playoffs. Like I kind of thought he was one of the few Sixers who actually played well in the playoffs. I think he shot 40% from deep. To Ryan's point, he did kind of get pushed off the ball a little bit when he was guarding Kemba, and he had a guard. I think he had a couple instances against Jaylen Brown. But honestly, outside of Joel Embiid, I thought Shake Milton looked like one of the better Sixers in the playoffs this year. So yeah. I think he's starting caliber. I think you could definitely feel comfortable throwing him out there.
Yeah, and let's not forget Shake is 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah.
Once his lower body quickness catches up to his brain, his frame is there. So he's just kind of and I assume he's been in the weight room quite a bit. What other questions we got, Austin?
So one thing I wanted to add to that, I think that we have to take it and view it within the context of like starting caliber given this team, because you also want a half-court ball handler that you can sort of throw in the pick and roll, can pass a little bit, has better vision than Tobias Harris does, but can also create shots off the dribble himself and be kind of dynamic and as a finisher too, because Shake is a better finisher than Tobias. Sure. I think if you had another ball handler on this team that could shoot, that was a little bit more experienced and a little bit physically more there, I guess I'd say, Shake might not be in the conversation, but I think in the context of what this roster offers, then yeah, he is the best option to provide that.
So, Kai, what do you think? What do they prioritize? It sounded really early in Doc's availability is that he wants to outscore teams. As much as you look at this roster from last year and you say, they probably want to ground and pound and half court offense. It sounds like he just wants high scoring output and put pressure on other teams. You think that a player's defensive deficiencies are going to be a major hindrance to them being able to play around two really great defenders in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons?
Yeah, I think I would definitely have to agree with you about what Doc said. It sounds like Doc really wants to kind of get out and run and kind of get out and transition a little bit more, which honestly is not a bad idea when you have Ben Simmons handling the ball. I mean, imagine, you're on defense and you've got Ben Simmons coming at you, but instead of having to pass the ball to Josh Richardson and Al Horford, he's passing the ball to Seth Curry and Tobias Harris, running up the floor with him. So honestly, I feel like the Sixers right now, obviously, they have to go out and prove it, but I feel like on paper right now, they're in a much better spot than they were, back in August. I get what Elton Brand was trying to do. They were trying to go big, but I mean, if you want to go big in this league, you have to find bigs who can shoot the balls. It's a lot different game than it was back in the day. So I do agree with you on what Doc is trying to do. But he also mentions a lot, he also mentions defense a lot. So I don't know if it's he wants to just kind of outscore teams or if he wants to use that defense to force turnovers and get out in transition with the way between Ben, Seth, Danny, Ryan Brokoff, by any chance, Justin Anderson, maybe just kind of going out there and just using all their athletes and getting out and run.
Yeah, that makes sense. Got Zachary East from Twitter. Do you think this is the final 15-man roster, or do you think Daryl has another trade up his sleeve? So here's the question. Austin, you first. Is there a trade between now and the beginning of the season on the 22nd? Yes or no?
No.
Kai, yes or no? Between now and the beginning of the season. Another trade.
No.
Okay. Now, let's because we're going to talk about final 15, right? Between now and the trade deadline, do they make a deal?
Yes.
Kai.
Between here and the trade deadline, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you ask, and Zach, thanks for the question. When you ask about the final 15, I think we're all on the same page. This is the final 15, probably heading into game one, but this is probably not the 15-man roster you'll see at the beginning of the playoffs. Okay, thanks for the question. All right. Okay, so how many minutes per game do you expect from Dwight Howard? Kai, what do you think?
How many games are we getting from Dwight Howard?
How many minutes per game? I've gotten this a couple of times in the last week, actually. How many minutes per game?
Honestly, I can see about somewhere between 20 and 23 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
I can. And it's only because obviously, if they can keep Joel around 35 minutes. Actually, no, maybe not 20. My fault. I'm doing the whole math thing wrong. I'm not good at math. Somewhere between 17 and 20. Somewhere between 17 and 20 for Dwight, probably.
All right,
I'm not good at math. I apologize.
I think in the games that Joel sits, it's probably going to look like 25 minutes.
Yeah.
In the games that Joel's available, which is always a good question itself, I would probably say 12 to 16 minutes. I think if you can keep Embiid in that 30 to 32, 34 range, you're going to have a pretty well refreshed Embiid, generally speaking, on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah. I think that's about right. Daryl talked about 13 to 15 minutes of a backup center reading the cover for. That's the number of minutes he used, but that might be a very generic sort of. This is how many minutes I expect my starter to go, 33 to 35. So I think it's going to be a little bit higher. You'd like to see Joel play on a night where they walk into the fourth with a big lead. You'd like to see him play 28, 29 minutes in a close game. Obviously he's going to go down the stretch and stretch, 35, 36 minutes. I doubt we're going to see the same sort of kid gloves though. At this stage of his career, you got to let him play. Ryan asks, I thought I heard Doc say right after Maxey was drafted that he thinks the Sixers can be one of the best defensive teams. That is the thing that he said. He said it will then make its offense run. And what I'll say to that question, Ryan, I think it's a great question, and he did say it, but every coach I've ever interviewed ever has said exactly that thing, right? So every coach you talk to at any level, middle school level, high school level, college, the G League, every one of them is going to say exactly that starts on defense. You can turn defense into offense. There's been enough other things that he said that sort of deviate from the standard coaching script that I think really indicates he does want to score. So, Austin, Kai, any thoughts on that?
I don't know what the question was in there, to be honest.
Well, he's saying that that we're wrong, that Doc wants defense first. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like to the point that you and I were just talking about, Jason. It's kind of the same thing that that we've been saying. Like Doc wants to get out in transition, he wants to push, and he wants to run, but he also did mention a lot of defense. So. Yeah. So like that's why the team has Ben, Joel, Tobias. Obviously, Tobias isn't like this great defender, but he's getting better. Like there are just certain things that he's been able to work on, and even Tyrese Maxey, pretty solid defender. For a guy coming out of college and things like that. So there are like a couple of different things that they can do with this. So when Doc says he wants to become a better defensive team, and he also couples it with the transition. It is something to where they can force a lot of turnovers, get out and run, and just have Ben kind of run wild, let him off the leash a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's right. But again, every coach talks about defense, so I wouldn't read too much into that quote. Here's one: Ghost Rider. Do you expect Shake's minutes to be staggered to be the backup point guard? So this is an important piece with this team, I think. Yeah. When you have Ben on the floor, he's going to start the game. It's less about that starter next to him, and it's really about who runs that offense when Ben sits. And he doesn't sit a lot, but during that sort of last 2 minutes of the first quarter, first 2 minutes of the second quarter, there might be some changes there. But who's running the offense during those periods? Is that Shake or is that Seth Curry?
Probably Shake.
I would have originally have thought like Tyrese Maxey, but I also don't think that you can give him the minutes at the backup point guard spot on a contending team and expect like they don't have the window to live with mistakes from a rookie point guard. So I guess it would have to be Shake, maybe a little bit of Seth Curry. I think Seth is a little bit of like an under the radar ball handler, but he isn't a guy that you can expect to really like go initiate the offense for 6 consecutive minutes.
Yeah, I think the thing with Curry is putting the ball in his hands almost eliminates his elite skill.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to go under a screen. And he's now he as a point guard doesn't have a Seth Curry waiting to catch and shoot and bomb threes. So you want him to be able to play off ball as much as possible without getting you killed on the defensive side. So, I tend to agree. I think Shake probably will run the offense, or he'll get the first crack during those Ben Simmons bench minutes. Okay, so let's go back to Dakota Matthias. Samuel, who knew? Who knew he had such a fan base? Watching him now, definitely a shooter. Dakota Mathias, does he have a chance to make the team? See, I guess in the two-way, he's not going to get cut. We feel comfortable with that? What do we think?
I don't think Matthias will make the team, but it's not like he's going to be, as you said, Jason. He's not going to get cut. Like he's on a two-way deal. He'll spend some time with the Delaware Bluecoats, like whenever the G League kind of figures itself out for the 2020-21 season, and then from that point, you kind of have to hope that he continues to develop because he said, I mean, Matthias is a guy who can shoot the ball, he can rebound, he's a good playmaker. Honestly, like if he can show like just a little bit more on defense down in the G League, I feel like he could become some type of rotational player in the NBA at some point. And the Sixers have two guys who spent time in the G League, Seth Curry and Danny Green, before really becoming full-fledged NBA rotational players. So maybe Matthias can use those two as kind of like examples for his future.
Well, Shake spent a lot of time in the G League too, right?
Shake as well.
Yeah, Shake. Okay, let me look at Dakota Mathias stats because I did not think of him as a rebounder. What's that?
I feel like you just have like 5 monitors that you can keep on.
I do. Yeah, I do. Yes, not 5, but definitely 3. So Mike Weary says that's why we need Lou Williams. So how does a Lou Williams trade happen? How would it work, Austin?
I think one thing people need to understand is that the trade exception, it only works it only applies when there's no outgoing salary. It isn't like you can make a trade and then like oh, we have this distance between our player and your player's money. Oh, boom, we just throw a trade exception and it works. Like it has to be that you're not taking any. It has to be there's no outgoing salary on your end. So like a draft pick is how you would apply that exception. Like you trade a pick for a player or an expiring deal. That's the way you would apply a trade exception. I mean, I guess that would be a possibility because Lou Will's only making like what, $8 million per year, something like that. I mean, I guess you could say like, hey, Clippers, I know you gave away every asset you have to get Paul George. Why don't I give you a pick back and you can call it spade a spade? Or they could, they want to get younger and something that is actually tangible potential. Maybe you look at what you have on the roster. I don't know that I would give up Matisse Thybulle for a year of Lou Williams. I also don't know that I would give up Shake Milton for a year of Lou Williams. But I mean, I think the variable here is what does this team look like and what does the rest of the East look like at the trade deadline? Are the Sixers in prime position to be a 2 or 3 seed in the East? Is the East weaker than we all thought? Did someone else get injured? I think you have to see where the East is at the trade deadline before you make that decision.
Yep. Kai, do you think, Daryl Morey has said if you have a 5% chance at a ring, you have to go all in. Does Lou Williams give them a 5% chance at a championship?
Lou Williams. I mean, we are talking about one of the best 6 men, to ever play the game. It's just like kind of like what Austin said. I feel like it would just be so hard to get him, like at this point. And I feel like you would have to kind of maybe when the season progresses, you see where the East is at, and then at the trade deadline, you kind of make a move. Basically what Austin said. I don't know if Lou Williams is a guy who's going to push them over the top. I feel like he'd be the one that could come in off the bench and give them, again, he could come in and give them 18 to 23 points. It is who he is. He's a certified bucket. But I kind of look at Lou and I don't know if the Sixers could really make a move for him. I feel like at that point you kind of have to groom and develop some of the other guys on your bench and the younger guys and maybe make them your Lou Williams,
Get me a Miles call it a day.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching. Subscribe, rate, tell your friends. We passed 1 million views this morning, so we're pretty big milestone. We're about 3 million minutes watched. That's just on the YouTube channel, so it's pretty awesome. We appreciate every one of you who've been with us. Stick with us. Again, tell your friends. Let's go back to some more questions. Isaiah Joe, we mentioned him really briefly. Okay. I like that Isaiah Joe isn't just a catch and shoot guy, but can also be a pure shooter while handling the ball and creating his own shot. I think he projects as that. I'm not sure he's strong enough yet.
That's a really, really, really stringent, I guess, objective for a guy. Like, that's basically asking a guy who's been a C student his whole life to be an A+ student. Like, it's a big goal to establish for somebody who you want to bring along organically. I think he'd be very good in like a Mikhail Pietrus role this year.
Mikhail Pietrus would honestly be like a really good addition.
Yeah, and shout out me for throwing out my French basketball knowledge right there. I got to throw a Pietrus reference in there, but like Pietrus was like a decent 3-and-D guy, and I think he didn't have too much the more responsibility you give young guys, the worse they're probably going to be because you're overcomplicating the role. It's a role that they're trying to learn on the fly. So I think condense things to like your job is to move off ball, like play passable, high effort defense, and when you have their open shot, take it.
Yeah, and I think one thing to keep in mind, Joe is 6'5", 180, and that's super light. So Furkan Korkmaz has there's some parallels there, and I think they're going to have the same early struggles. Furkan is 20 pounds heavier than Isaiah Joe right now. So the NBA is a different level, guys. Like you can be a really, really good basketball player and still struggle physically to move up. He's a guy with the right frame, but there's a strength element that these guys have to develop. All right, let's go on to another Ryan, back again. Thank you for the question. Is the Sixers bench strong enough if both Green and Curry start? Okay, so I think it takes away from the bench strength as well as the full 48. We're not going to get hung up on that of the team running. So are you sacrificing something by putting Green and Curry in the starting lineup later down throughout the game? I tend to not think this matters that much, right? I think starting is sort of an ego based designation, and it's important for a lot of guys. But one thing you'd hope is Danny Green at this point in his career doesn't care about things like that.
Some starters play 12 minutes a game.
It's really just how you construct those staggered rotations, right?
Yeah.
And as we know, it matters who's playing in the last 4 minutes of the game, much more than in the first 4 minutes of the game. Go ahead.
So my thing is this: a lot of teams are going to have the guys that are just, for whatever reason, they're just better players as starters than they are as bench guys. And I think when you have Shake, you have Danny, and you have Seth all vying for essentially the same role in the lineup, the odds of one of them just not the odds of all three of them being able to just accept and be good at whatever role that they have, whether it be starting or off the bench, I think is low. My guess would be if anyone's going to struggle coming off the bench, from a production standpoint, probably going to be Danny Green. So I mean, if I had to guess which one is going to be the off the bench, it's going to be one of Curry and Shake.
And you say that because the other two have sort of more pure form, and Danny Green's got a little bit more going on with his mechanics, so he's going to need a little bit more time to get into a rhythm. What makes you say that?
Well, I just look at Danny Green's type of game. Like he's kind of similar to JJ in that like you need to have the right pieces in the lineup with him to really get the most out of his game as an offensive player. And I mean, I think defensively, he's like basically a net neutral, maybe a negative impact player on defense because he's just of natural father time. But I think with Danny Green, like you need someone who's going to set legitimate screens, someone who's a good passer, someone who is really understands the offense and can manipulate the offense in a way that I don't think the bench unit is going to have. So I think that like with like Ben Simmons, yo-yoing the ball and getting in transition, getting downhill. I think just Danny has a better chance of being successful in the starting lineup than he would playing with Dwight, Matisse, whoever else you got there.
It's an interesting thought. Thoughts on that, Kai?
Honestly, when it comes to the starting lineup, I'm kind of with you, Jason. I feel like starting is like the most like overrated thing. I mean, like for example, Andre Robertson started for the Oklahoma City Thunder next to Durant and Westbrook and all them, and I think he only averaged like 18 to 22 minutes or something like that, and he really just kind of filled a role as a defensive stopper. So yeah. I feel like it's going to be kind of be the same thing here in Philadelphia. I feel like whoever starts, I feel like is not going to be like the finishing lineup. I feel like the finishing lineup is going to be Joe and Ben, probably Tobias, and then whoever kind of has a hot hand that night and helping those three finish the game out. I'm with you. I think starting is the most overrated thing in the game.
But I do think Austin, that sort of running mate pairing, chemistry, timing, that what you say makes a lot of sense because you can make some parallels to Danny Green and Roberson. Danny Green, much better knockdown shooter. Roberson, you really had to hide him for a long time. I think he had a good shooting month or something last year.
No, I think also like you can. It's a unique situation when you have Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, two of the most explosive players in modern basketball. You can sort of hide his offensive shortcomings with them on the floor.
Yeah, you didn't want anybody else taking any shots anyway.
Right. I think with Danny, like if you watch Danny film, they're running like very elaborate intentional plays for him to like get himself prepared to shoot the ball. And I think if you're having him ad lib plays and doing too much extra to get into his shot, you're going to exert a lot of energy for him just to get open, and that's going to ultimately be a downfall.
So you need a point guard that really knows that inside and out, can physically be not knocked off his spot, so he's ready to deliver exactly at the right time.
And like
or a DHO from Embiid.
Yeah, like passing accuracy, not passing to like the left-hand shoulder, but instead of the shooting pocket, exactly. Like setting legitimate screens, not like little bullshit like stick your ass out and then dive to the rim.
Agree entirely. Brendan Davis says, and I think this is a good comment. If you trade for Lou, you're basically saying Shake and Maxey, they're not going to play. That's not what teams should be doing. I think you really cannot just sacrifice development for a chance. It'll be interesting though to see if that happens. So I think that's a really good point, Brendan. Again, thanks for watching. Okay, other questions. Am I missing anything from Twitter? By the way, I just got an email that we are going to have media availability tomorrow. Kai, did you see this?
See the email? Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, who do we have? We have tomorrow.
Justin Anderson.
Justin Anderson, Doc Rivers, and Furkan. Okay. So breaking news here on the live stream. Tomorrow, coverage from us. Justin Anderson will be talking at noon. Doc Rivers at 2 p.m. and Furkan. We just spent some time doing some expectations for Furky yesterday. He'll be talking at 3:30 p.m. So tune in. I'm sure we'll probably do some sort of reaction to that, like we do with everything. So, okay, who we talked about? So Justin Anderson. Let's talk about it. Is he here? Is he here to really make an impact on this roster? Is he here because He is Joel Embiid's one of his best friends. Is this making your star happy, or is this a guy that really has a chance to get regular rotation minutes? Austin.
So I don't think it's a bad thing if Justin Anderson's your 15th man. Like, I think that's a pretty good 15th man. I would guess that they've sort of finally realized that they have to, like, hey, like, let's do right by Joel Embiid and like prioritize what he thinks is best. And I think that might mean bringing in one of his good friends, and Justin Anderson. If you can get a happy Embiid on the court, this team's going to do a lot of winning this year.
Totally agree. Kai, any thoughts? Justin Anderson.
Justin Anderson. Honestly, I thought he should have got some burn in the 2018 semifinals against Boston.
Okay.
I mean, just because he's one of those kind of like physical defenders that can be an irritant. He can kind of get up into you and really bother you a little bit. And and like he's not a bad offensive player either. He's got a good shot, a good stroke. So will he make this roster? I don't know.
I think
I can't see it. I really can't see it. But I mean, again, like that's what training camp is for. That's what preseason is for. So
Kai, you just
my gut says no. My gut says yes.
You just called him a good defender, a good shooter. Why would you not make the team? So what is the reason he's not going to make the team?
Because the way I look at it is like you just traded for Seth and Danny, right? And then you've got Matisse, and then you've got Maxey, and then you have Joe, who all what are they? They kind of all play similar positions. They play the 2 and the 3, and that's kind of the position that Anderson plays, right? So I like that's why I see those guys.
You walked yourself. You walked yourself right into a wall.
So we have to be.
What I'm saying is, though, because he's on a non-guaranteed deal, and the rest of those guys I just mentioned have guaranteed deals. So, I mean, how is he going to make the roster?
Do you remember the Simba dunk, the little like iconic little like gesture he'd make after he dunked?
I do remember that.
like rev up the engine, like vroom, vroom.
Sick. So Justin, again, teammates universally loved him. Does provide some defense. Not a shooter. I don't think he's a shooter. I think there's too much going on. He's got too much sort of like he's not a stand-up vertical leaper when he shoots. He's got that sort of catapult trebuchet behind the back shot. It just doesn't translate. He's a 29% shooter from 3 for his career, and he's still 26, but it's like that style of shooting. Unless you have insane hand-eye coordination, you're just not going to be a consistent shooter from 3. I think he's on the bubble for sure, but mainly because I think they really want to space the floor. Austin, I think you nailed it. He's here to keep our star happy. And, you never know. He might sign a G League contract, hang out in Philadelphia, commute down to Delaware for games, and just sort of be a guy they keep in the program.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be like a goodwill kind of thing. Like, hey, yep. We value you. Let's bring in your guy. We'll pay him to like be here for a couple weeks, or like basically like be your happiness guard, I guess. But I mean, I like Justin Anderson is someone who I think it can give you just good energy minutes, even if it's like seldom or 5 or 6 per game. I mean, I think in a packed house, he can have a big impact because he can get in somebody's face. He can have like a thunderous block or a dunk and get people on their feet. And then, that can really turn a game on its head in terms of energy. You get like Joel re-engaged. I mean, I think he has things that he can do well. Overall, I just think that like the one big thing you need from him is he's just not a good 3-point shooter. And they're trying to pride them, and they're trying to really build that spacing up. So.
Yep. You see the Frosty freeze-out guy if he makes the team?
Yes, no question.
Ghost Rider says, let's talk about Danny Green. I think this is really important, right? So he's going to miss 6 full days of training camp.
Yeah.
Does that change how quickly they can integrate him into what they're doing? We're talking about a 34, 35-year-old guy.
So like, what would happen if like he's in the building with them? But I mean, like, if the cameras never show him, he's not really there.
No, that's not how it works. They sign in. Just like we sign in when we go there. If they know we're in there, they know the NBA's. I
guess someone would eventually notice that his car is a lot.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I guess
he'd be under a different tape.
Like separate.
So yeah, I would doubt it. Okay, Brennan Davis, thanks for the question. Most minutes off the bench this year. Okay, we're assuming Shake's off the bench. Shake, Matisse, Maxey, Ferguson, Joe, or Furkan. Of that group, who gets the most minutes coming off the bench?
Matisse.
Yep.
Out of that group specifically coming off the bench, I guess I would say Shake.
Let's rank them. Let's rank them.
Okay.
Rank them? Okay.
So Kai says Shake. I'm going to say this. My guess is Furkan is probably out of the rotation. Ferguson.
Agreed. Unless Furkan has like a really good training camp and a really good preseason, I think Furkan's kind of out a little bit.
Yeah. I think Isaiah Joe's probably going to be like a night to night kind of guy, like depending on the situation. Ferguson, I would guess, is like a 4 to 6 minute per game kind of guy. Like you plug him in certain spots. Maxey, I think, is 10 minutes per game, maybe a little more. I think Shake is going to be back and forth between like swinging start and then bench all season. My guess is like Matisse is playing like 18, 20 something minutes per night off the bench.
Yeah, I think Matisse has the best chance to increase his minutes of this group because I'm a believer in his form. He's got really long arms, which makes it a little harder to become a knockdown shooter. But I just like the way he sets up for shots, and I think he's going to become a better shooter. So I think it's going to start out. Shake's going to get more minutes. I think as the season progresses, some of these guys may earn those minutes, and a guy like Furkan may be fighting to maintain any minutes he's getting. I think the bulk of his opportunity is going to happen early in the season just because Joel knows where he is going to be. Ben knows where he's going to be. But as these other guys get integrated, they're probably going to be nipping at his heels. But let's not forget 12% of our visitors are from Turkey. So Furkan, 40.2% shooter from three last year. Let's not forget he's a 40% shooter from three. So, I think Joe is going to really struggle for the first year. I wouldn't expect very much from him at the NBA level in year one. Maury has said you don't get much out of rookies and only expect so much for a guy drafted that low. Okay, let's talk about the bubble. What's that, Kai?
Real quick, at the same time, though, Furkan shot 40% from deep, but then he also shot 0 for 6 from deep in the playoffs against Boston, and he shot 0 for 9 from the floor. So it's like, I mean, how much stock do you put into it? Like, do you put in the regular season, or are you going to look at the playoffs and be like, dude, you scored 1 point or 2 points, 3 points, whatever it was throughout the entire series?
They got swept. There's small sample size, 6 shots. It's hard to make much of that. So I go with the larger sample size for that.
My guess is this. He's going to be in and out of the rotation throughout the first half of the season. As you get like within like the last month or so of the trade deadline, you're going to see them showcasing him a lot more. So he'll be like, like they'll be using him like 5-6 minute stretches, just trying to get some positive film on him. Maybe he makes a couple of nice shots. You can flip that at the deadline for something maybe.
Let's go to this one real quick. There's a returning viewer. I believe you said last night he'll be used early in the season unless as the season goes on. You see how consistent I am? And thank you for watching. Mark, really do appreciate that. You you've watched both, and you would have caught me had I been two-faced, and I'm not. Okay, let's talk about the bubble. Which 3 players are on the bubble for this team? Austin.
Brokoff. I think Derek Walton's probably on the outside looking in. And I guess Simba, although I think Simba has a pretty I guess, a good chance of making the team.
Okay. Kai. 3 guys on the ball.
Agreed with Austin on Walton, Brokoff, and Anderson. It would be really hard to see those 3 guys kind of break through.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Nadir says 143 threes for 1.6 million.
Really smart. This guy is just a Korkmaz fan. I mean, I don't know.
Hey, I'm trying to tell you, we have a lot of them. There's a lot of Furky with the jerky from Turkey fans.
I think
I respect it entirely.
Listen, Furkan's a nice player, but let's not act like he wasn't by far the best shooter on a team that got swept out of the first round. Like, what is he really going to contribute to winning? Is my question.
6'7" guys that shoot 40% from 3. If they increase their foot speed a little bit, they help you win. Yeah. And like you said about 10 minutes ago, or actually, Kai, I think you said this. At the end of games, you've got so many shooters on this team, you can sort of plug in the hot hand at the end of the game.
Right.
And he's one of those guys that if he's not hot and he goes out and he shoots 0 for 3 early in the game, he's off the floor in the second half. But if he gets heated up, this is a guy that can hit a bunch of threes in a game and is not going to be wilting in the last minute. He's just, like any guy, he's going to be better on some nights than others against certain matchups. But you get enough shooters and you can sort of ride. You just slot in hot shooter X for that last 4 minutes, and he could be one of those guys. So it'll be really interesting. All right.
If he beefs up and he's playing where it's he's not giving up a 3-point play for every three he makes. Yeah. I mean, he's not a bad player. It told me a lot that he was by far the best shooter on a team that got swept out of the first round.
Okay, hold on, Nadir. I never said Korkmaz was a terrible shooter. First of all, I don't know where. I legit. I don't know where he got this, assumption that I just said Korkmaz is a terrible shooter. No, he shot 40% from deep. That's a very good percentage. That means he's a pretty damn good shooter. The thing is, though, kind of as Jason said, like if he's going to shoot 0 for 3 in the first half, for example, he doesn't exactly do anything else that would really force Doc to be like, okay, I'll play him in the second half. He has to shoot, he has to make his threes. If he doesn't, then what does Furkan else? What does he do else?
It's almost like he has to be good at his job in order to keep.
Yeah, no, I do think to Kai's point, and Nadir, thank you for keeping us honest. If you go back to the Robert Covington years, Robert Covington was really bad shooter early in seasons, and then he would get really hot in January, and you'd see suddenly the team would win a lot more games. But when he was cold, he definitely hurt them by missing a bunch of threes, but he was always helping you on the other end. Furkan is you're hoping he's a, just below average defender, so he's got to make the threes. And I think with guys like him on this team, you're going to see some real fluctuations in their shooting percentages, because when they're not hot, they're not going to play. There's just 5 other guys on the bench that are going to get a chance later in the game. So, okay, let's move on. We had our Furkan segment, and we'll have another one tomorrow when he talks. So, are we saying the starting 5 will be Joel, Ben, Tobias, Danny Green, and Seth Curry? Sherman, thanks for the question. We talked about this a little bit. Austin, is that your starting 5?
Nope. I think number 1, I'm going to go with with the information I have. I'm going to stick loyal to that. And I also think that it's hard to sell, it's hard to buy the guy is going to start. Danny Green's going to start if he misses the first 6 days of training camp. He's going to be behind the rest of people that have been there the entire time. I would guess in the opening night, it's Joel, Ben, Tobias, Seth, and Shake. But that could, I could easily see by the second month or by the trade deadline or whatever that it's Danny in the starting lineup over Shake.
Anything to add, Kai?
Honestly, when you really think about the fact that, yeah, Danny's not going to be available to the team until December 8th, then it does kind of complicate the whole, do you start Danny Green in the lineup as well? Because he'll only have like, what's that, about 2 weeks before the regular season starts. So like at that point you could see Shake starting, and then whenever Danny kind of gets into the rotation, gets into the team, gets integrated a little bit, then maybe Danny could start. But I think that's just because like Danny only played, or excuse me, he's not going to be with the team until the 8th.
Yep, I think that's fair. Ari Prince says Ben, Seth, Matisse, Tobias, and Joel. Does Matisse? How many games? Let's say it this way. We're gonna have 72 games this season. How many starts does Matisse Thybulle have in this coming season? Over, under 10.
Under.
Go.
Under.
Austin, under?
They got under, yeah.
I mean, now the wild card here is like if Ben is healthy or not. If Ben's missing games, I think the most rational step up to replace him would be Matisse, because I just don't think that you can afford to have two non-shooters or like below average shooters in the starting lineup. And obviously Ben's going to be a starter. So I think that in order to maximize the capacity of the starting lineup, you got to surround Ben, Joe with guys who can shoot the ball really well. And that's Tobias, that's Seth, that's Shake, that's Danny Green.
Yeah, I think that's true unless we see a real leap in Thybulle's shooting. We're going to look for month by month shooting, because I think he had a really up and down year. I think he started okay, he got pretty good, and then faded. I don't think he shot well in Orlando. Is that true? Is that what you guys remember?
I think so. I think he got more aggressive attacking the rim in Orlando, but overall, as a shooter, he wasn't very confident. I mean, he started off like horribly, like he was like literally afraid to dribble the ball, and then as the season went on, he was like much more aggressive with his athleticism. He even had like a period where he was like shooting really well, and he dropped off. I think it fluctuated a lot with like how Brett used him.
Yeah, it was a total of one for 4 in the playoffs. I don't have his month by month shooting in front of me, but overall in his rookie year he was 35.7%.
Not bad.
That's all you can really ask for from any rookie, especially a guy who is hanging his hat on defense. So if he gets that, all right, let's ask it this way. Right? Matisse Thybulle increases his 3-point shooting to 38%, while having a positive, and this is a surprise because of his ball handling struggles, positive assist to turnover ratio. Does that change everything when you look at Matisse Thybulle as a starter?
Yeah,
from 36 to 38 is not a big leap.
I think it changes a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're basically like it's basically like you're getting Rocco Jr. and
right.
You're like really mimicking that 2017-18 lineup.
Yep. Okay, I think there's a lot of parallels, especially in the ball handling arena as well. Sherman says not a fan of the Shake experiment in the starting lineup, but Seidel says I think it's Andrew. Shake has good chemistry with Ben and Joel. Can both of those things be true?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Shake a little bit more. Is Shake a wing or a creator?
That's a really good question. I can't compare.
Great question. Because I mean, he played point guard for throughout the bubble and in the playoffs, and then even those final 20 games or so before the season got suspended in March. He was playing mostly on the ball. He was playing mostly as like a point guard who can create for himself and others. So maybe you could call him a tweener. Like maybe he can just kind of play both point and the shooting guard effectively and feel comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I think creators are a very relative term. I think like we can like a creator can mean like, hey, can you take 2 dribbles before you shoot the ball and like make it? I think Shake is that guy. I think Shake can also get to the rim and like go with his left hand, right hand, whatever. I think he also has some footwork packages into his jump shot. So I mean, I think he's a creator. I don't think he's like a James Harden creator or like anything close to that. But I think he's capable of like putting the ball on the deck, creating space on his own, and making shots.
Yeah, I would say he's an average NBA guard from a passing standpoint. He's not a bad passer, but doesn't jump out as some sort of wild floor general that's creating easy buckets for other people, right? Okay, I will say Sherman, Shake had opportunities on a bad team that couldn't shoot with a green light. Good luck coming off the bench. Let's not forget Shake shot 43% from 3 last year. I will go back the year before in the G League, though. Shot 36% from 3 down there in more of an off-ball role. 43%. I don't know that you can just plug him in for 43% for the rest of his career, but he's probably a 39 to 42% shooter from 3, which is a guy you can't go under on a screen. So he, can do some pick and roll stuff.
Stone cold lock. Shake's going to shoot 46% the rest of his career.
You heard it here. Thanks to everyone who's watching. Please mark that down. The date is it is 11/30, November 30th, 2020. Austin Krell just put in Shake for 46% from 3 for the rest of his career. So we'll have to wait until Shake retires for that freezing cold take. But
that freezing cold take.
Personally, I'm going to set a reminder for it. Okay. Mark says if Shake hits 40%, no need for Furkan. So does the Shake Milton's minutes eat into opportunity for deep bench guys like a Furkan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because, I mean, like, if Shake is going to continue to shoot 40+% from deep, and he's a guy who can play both point guard and shooting guard, then...
And you want him playing 35 minutes a game, right?
No, you're not. No, you're not going to play Shake 35 minutes a game.
If he's doing those two things, yeah, you do want him there.
If he's shooting 40% from deep, okay.
And he can handle the ball, yeah.
But if he's going... But let's say he's shooting 40% from deep, he can handle the ball, but let's say like he's getting burnt on defense again. Like,
yeah.
I mean, so at some point they're gonna have to kind of figure something out. But if Shake is going to shoot 40% from deep, then yeah, there's going to be no point really for Furkan on the floor because Furkan only does one thing.
It would not have occurred to me that Furkan's minutes would be at risk from Shake Milton. I would have thought Furkan's minutes are going to be at risk from guys like Maxey and Danny Green. And if one of these other camp shooters winds up, popping, those are the guys I would think of. Wouldn't think of Shake, but I do think, there's only so many minutes, 240 minutes to give out. And if a guy's really playing well, he's going to take 35 of those minutes. So it just
if Shake is hitting guys with like the pull-up hezzy Jimbos that Markelle Fultz had in summer league, he's gonna get
pull-up hezzy Jimbos.
He's gonna have like 33 to 37 minutes per game. It's 30 every night.
Okay, Sam, thank you for the breaking news. Lamine Diane sounds French. What do we know? Do we know anything? I think, Kai, you and I were just talking about this right before we went live. What do we know about Lamine Diane? So, here's what I'll say.
He played for Cal
23 years old. What's that?
He played for Cal State Northridge in the Big West, and he averaged 25 and 10. So He will be here on an Exhibit 10 contract.
6'7", played 2 years at college, shot 29% from 3. So we don't know if he's a
love that.
If he's a shooter. But 58% free throw shooter. So
Wow.
Yeah, we're not looking at a shooter. This is a development project. The Exhibit 10 last year, just so everyone knows, was used on Chris Kamaji, who I don't believe played. Did he play any NBA minutes last year? No. So played really well. I think he was Defensive Player of the Year in the G League for the Blue Coats. So you might be looking at a guy to see in Wilmington, probably. Okay. We got a lot of Shake comments. A lot of questions about Shake. Shake is long, but is he strong enough and fast enough to defend twos and threes? Can he guard ones? I think this is the key, right? This is his sort of swing trait. Yep, everyone agree? But I think going back to Furkan, it's exactly the same, right? Can he keep up with twos and threes? Shake is a perfect player next to Ben, secondary creator who shoots 40%. What else do you want? It's defense, right?
Yeah, you have to be able to defend on the floor. Like if you're going to be able to earn playing time moving forward, you have to be able to not only do your job offensively, but you have to go down on the other end and actually defend your man, which is going to be the question for a lot of these guys. And that's what training camp and preseason really going to be for Doc Rivers, to figure out the rotation. That's pretty much going to be the two things he's going to be looking at. Can you do your job on the offensive end? And can you go on the defensive end and actually defend your guy, defend your position, and not hurt us on that end? That's going to be the big question for a lot of guys.
Austin, are you a real box plus minus guy?
Couldn't tell you what that means. No, I'm kidding.
So you're
I'm kidding. I mean, I think plus minus can be like I think it's the type of stat that people will manipulate to prove their narrative. They'll also use it to they'll also be like, that isn't a good application when it discredits their narrative. I think there are times when it's good. There are times when it drastically under or oversells a player's impact.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We can look at let's look at defensive rating is something I probably put more weight in after the end of the season. And looking at Shake Milton, his defensive rating last year was 112, which is not great. I think 108 was the team average, so he's a minus defender for the team, even playing with the starters quite a bit. But his offensive rating was 118, which is really good. That's pretty darn good. So his net, again, playing with the best guys on the team, +6 per 100. All right. Go ahead. What are you laughing about?
Kai's like, I gotta go. Can you please wrap this up?
Hey, we're not wrapping it up until the viewers are done. There's many of them. All right. Go ahead, Kai. You can jump out.
I was like, I gotta pee.
No, it's not that. I've got a lot. I have to give up the news about Lamine Dieng, guys. I have to write a million articles for Sixers Wire. So
you do. Sixers Wire. Everyone follow Kai Carlin, Kai_Carlin on Twitter, and he is the beat writer for Sixers Wire, USA Today, right? USA Today.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next week.
I will talk to you guys next week. Austin, I'll text you later, bro. You jerk.
Miles Plumlee.
Mason Plumlee.
Oof. Okay. All right. Let's get back into these comments. So, okay. What is this? After the pod, Painted Lines posted a highlight reel of the new signing. Go check it out. We never stop. Even when we're live, we never stop.
We're that quick.
Our crack crew is video editing all the highlights for Deanne that you get to ask for. And go check them out with the Blue Coats, because I think that's where you'll probably see them. Okay.
I was looking at the comment too below.
This is funny.
This is the best. Mark Bernstein is the best question of them all.
Oh yeah. Who is it?
Mark Bernstein, 2 below the one that you have.
Oh, hey, listen. Austin's dad loves Kai's articles for exactly that reason.
Kai,
we talk about all the time, you know.
My dad reads Kai's articles more than my own articles. Which is sad.
He ain't got that kind of, attention span.
No one does.
It is something we constantly struggle with. Mark, to be honest with you, we used to do these 3,000 word, articles, twice, 3 times, 4 times a week. We realized there is a sweet spot where people, give you about 3 to 5 minutes of their time, and you better hit them with some numbers and some quotes and get out. And Kai does a great job at that. So good job, Kai. Okay. Here's one. We haven't heard this name today. So Andrew says, I have League Pass and watch every team. The guy who is a defensive nightmare is Mike Scott. Mike Scott did not have a good year last year. Correct, Austin?
Yeah, I thought I would be interested to see how much of his like struggles defensively and generally all around were a direct correlation of his shooting struggles. Because I think as a shooter, when you're like a role playing shooter and you're not making shots, it can really cause you to get into your head and mess up the rest of your game. So I'd be curious to see that. I don't think he's a valueless guy, but I think just the fact that he was just so dreadful at times last season left a really bad taste in people's mouths.
Yeah, so let me bring up, because I think you brought up the notion of a showcase earlier, and Mike Scott was showcased with the Clippers, was moved as part of the Tobias Harris trade. With the Clippers, he shot 39% from 3 and played 15 minutes a game. Do you see any chance for him under Doc Rivers early on? Somebody probably already knows some of the terminology. Does he get an early chance?
Yeah, I think he's someone who will have an early advantage and will have to ultimately prove that he's worth playing. But I think for me, what I'm really interested to see is, and this isn't just Mike Scott, this is across the roster, how much of shooting downturn upon coming to Philadelphia is attributable to like a Brett Brown offense and not being sure what your role is, that laissez-faire nature of just like, I have the liberty to do whatever I want. How much of that is like sensory overload for guys? And I'm curious to see like how, if Mike Scott returns to that 39% number, if Tobias Harris is like a 38% shooter and is averaging over 20 points per game, what that would all look like.
Yeah, here's my cause for optimism when it comes to Mike Scott. I really think last year he got caught many times between wondering if he should crash the offensive glass or whether he should pop out to be open for shot. And that created all sorts of awkwardness. He never got comfortable. But in his first year here, when after that trade, he shot 41% from 3 for the Sixers, down to 37%. We think of him having a lot of bad nights. But then you look at his, to that point about crashing the glass, they wanted to dominate on the boards last year. They sent him down like a power forward a lot. He did increase his offensive rebounds over where he was with the Clippers, doubled that rate. Still only 1 per game, but I think that indicates that Brett Brown had given him instructions that didn't quite fit what he does well. Yeah. What he does well is just be a 6'8" guy who isn't, who isn't afraid to shoot and will launch from anytime he gets a little bit of daylight. So, there's a little bit of cause for optimism with him. And Mark Bernstein points out that Scott has really, really attractive contract when you package it in a trade. Yep. So he makes $5 million. And so any trade that happens at the trade deadline probably includes his $5 million to make the money work.
And Mark.
All right, let's go back to Ryan. A lot of good stuff today. Daryl Morey loves PJ Tucker. Be a great fit as a veteran on the Sixers. Loves Beverly too, as well as Doc. So,
yeah. I like the idea a lot. I think he'd be a good fit with this group, for someone to provide some veteran toughness. I do wonder if maybe he'd clash with Ben a little bit, just because of that like tough nature that PJ Tucker brings. I think one thing I'm not going to do is be like, oh, every player who's available in trade talks is going to end up as a Sixer. Like I think that there are a lot of variables that have to affect that, and I think Tucker would be a nice fit. I'm curious to see, number one, if Houston really does go through with a fire sale, and number two, like where the Sixers are versus where Houston is at the trade deadline. If they're looking to unload everybody and they're just like, it's over, maybe you can nab them for like Mike Scott and something else in a second-round pick. Maybe, yep. But then again, maybe you figure out that you don't need him. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Okay, here's a good question. If Maxey is starting in February, is that a good thing or a bad sign for how the team is doing?
I guess you could apply it in any context, right? I mean, if maybe he's just shooting the lights out of the ball, he's emerged as a really good creator, high energy defender. Then you say, hey, you know what? Our bench depth is really struggling. Let's try this guy on the bench and move Maxey up. Could also be like, hey, knock on wood, but like 3 guys blew out ACLs, knock on wood again. We need him to start. So
I also think February is when the rookie wall hits. So let's not forget that. Even if he's not playing a lot of minutes, practicing every day, weight room, he's now a professional. I know he got a head start. He's been in the gym with LeBron and Ben Simmons since May. And he said that he's added 3 to 4 inches of vert, but rookies hit the wall in February. That's just what happens. Like, you don't get a lot of days off. You're traveling a ton. College season's only 30 games, but really, how many games did he even play last year? Half a season or so. So, it's going to be a huge adjustment. I wouldn't want to count on rookies late in the season. You hope they get their bounce back by playoffs.
I think people get very interested in like the intrigue of what like a rookie can be. But I think like you have to keep in mind, traditionally rookies are going to look really good on terrible teams because they have the ball in their hands so much, and you're so desperate and starving for like a good player that you fall in love and like inflate everything that guy does. Generally speaking, you're probably not going to want, in most cases, a rookie starting for your playoff team.
Yeah, Mark makes a good point. This February will really be a normal February timeline will really not happen until March or April this year. That's a good point. Less games this year. All right, let's say Andrew, role players didn't have the right roles. With this depth and a guy at the top, you better believe guys will know their roles. That is a fair statement, Austin?
I think that's kind of the goal, right? I mean,
yep.
I think I don't think that's been a problem under Doc really ever. And so I would guess that's probably going to be an improvement. If you said like under Brett Brown, no one knew what the offense was, or like people's there was like a stubborn nature to the rotation, then I'd say like that's gonna be any different than it was with Brett. But I think generally speaking, guys know their role under Doc.
Okay, Troy, thanks for the question. Okay, I see Curry being more versatile than JJ, so therefore that makes him a rich man's JJ? Question mark?
Interesting line of logic, for sure.
I think he is more versatile in that you can give him the ball and he can create a little better. I do think we forget that JJ Redick has had some 4 assists per game seasons, but not really a point guard. Curry can do a little bit of that, but JJ Redick's ability to come off DHOs, run guys through a maze of screens and pop open. I don't think Seth is quite that quick, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like one thing that we can't overstate and overlook is like JJ had otherworldly shooting gravity. I mean, you could like just you wind really tightly around screens, catch, and just like he's able to fire with like 3 different things going on at once. And he's like, he doesn't have to rise and fall on a straight vertical axis. He can like be like going diagonally in different directions and still make shots. I mean, as bad as JJ was defensively, and maybe he did miss some big shots from time to time, as anybody does. His shooting gravity was amongst the best in the world, and I don't think Steph has that. I don't think anyone on this team really is going to have that. I think you can try to replicate that with both Danny Green and Seth Curry, but I don't think you can ever put them in the same sentence.
Big Shane Gillis, who I am convinced is Joel Embiid's burner account, says that Maxey will be starting by Valentine's Day. So any chance of that? Justin, you just joined, so any chance Maxey is a starter by Valentine's Day?
I think ultimately that depends how Shake and Curry are doing.
Okay.
I think if they end up liking Curry off the bench, like I think they will, I think it ultimately depends how Shake is, to be honest with you.
Andrew's comment really got me laughing. The only reason I could tolerate Brett Brown is because I live in Chicago and was watching Jim Boylan.
That's awful.
The toughest of scenes. Let's put that up.
That's funny.
And let's not pile on. Chicago's a great basketball city. Let's hope they turn the corner this year.
I don't think they want to hand over Zach LaVine to us.
Right.
He was really happy with Billy Donovan.
Okay. Looking good on a bad team is RJ Barrett. Did he look good?
No, he was really bad.
I think he was just bad on a bad team.
So some of it also
he looks good in a uniform. But he's like a poor man's Andrew Wiggins.
I think like his true shooting was like below league at, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I saw as well watching him is he was very predictable. A lot of the moves he was using was a lot of stuff from college as well. And that was a big thing of him with him coming out of the draft was everyone kept saying how he was so predictable because he was always on the left.
Yeah, and that we could get into a lot with RJ Barrett and that team. Let's do true shooting percentage for RJ Barrett, 47.9.
League average is like 56. So.
Yeah, no, you don't want 40. You don't want anybody under 52 scoring 14 points a game. Think about it this way:
so wait. Just to clarify what that means, not only was he an efficient shooter from the field, he also was not getting to the free throw line really at all. So
he wasn't. He got 4.5 free throw attempts per game, but only hit 61% of them.
Right.
You got to get to the line like 9 or 10 times if you're going to be a bad shooter. I agree. He shot 13 times per game, 13 attempts per game to generate 14 points. It's just not good. It's just not.
That's horrendous.
It's just not good. You don't want your guy. That's your guy. You can get away with that maybe as a defensive stopper or a microwave scorer once in a while. like that is a similar true shooting percentage to Alec Burks. And, sometimes he's going to look good, and a lot of times he's going to slowly choke the life out of your chance to win games.
So I have a question.
Bad shot at a time.
Congrats.
I have a question for you with RJ Barrett. Do you think any of that has to do with him not having talent around him? Because, I mean, he came into that team with basically having Mitchell Robinson and a bunch of power forwards, it felt like.
Yeah, but at Duke, he had tons of talent, and he was bad there too. Like, he was inefficient at Duke.
He was never a good shooter.
No.
I mean, and I guess in Jason's context, congratulations to the Knicks who drafted Alec Burks 3rd overall. That's love that.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
The worst thing you can have on your team is, in my personal opinion, is a guy who is not a star but thinks he's a star. Mm-hmm. And it's one thing to have confidence, but you can get away with that maybe at power forward, but you cannot let that guy have the ball and give him a green light. If he thinks he's a star and he's not a star, they'll get you killed every time.
Are you
really careful with point guards? What's that?
Are you referencing Jimmy Butler?
No, I was referencing Alec Burks, but also RJ Barrett. I think it's really problematic when you give a guy a green light and he's shooting, his true shooting percentage is under 52. I think it's real problems. Okay. Let's say. All right. What am I missing? Any other questions we've got?
Thanks for subscribing, Rivera.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. We've been thrilled with that. It's almost 7:30, and I think Eagles. Are we doing Eagles pregame?
Eagles play somebody. I mean, who the fuck knows?
They play the Seahawks tonight. That live stream is going to start at 7:45. So
okay, so let's go to about 7:40 and get out of here so the guys can get into the studio. Appreciate everyone for watching, sticking with us. Big day today for us. YouTube over 1 million. So thank you to everyone. Tell your friends. We're going to do these live streams as much as possible. You're going to see a ton of these during the season. We're going to be doing this. Austin, you and I are going to be doing a mailbag and just question and answer sessions every week, right? So stick with us for that.
I think you, me, and Kai.
And Kai, yeah. So thanks again.
There every once in a while as well. So
you hop in anytime. You don't have any bad takes that I have to make a note for when Shake retires and check back against.
Okay.
I can't wait till I'm at ESPN and Jason texts me and he's like, "Remember this take you had?" And I'll be like, "I'll be cursing live on screen that motherfucking Jason."
Yep. You're gonna see a little Google alert come up and say, "Shake Milton retires." The next thing will be a text from me going, "Remember you said you'd shoot 46% from 3?"
I'll be like Bobby Marks up on the big board, floating in names in and out of the lineup, and I'll take a little notification on the side. I'll pull it up and it'll be Jason. They're like, "God damn it!"
Yeah, we got a question here from Mock Manzini or Mancini.
Yeah. Okay, will Doc ask Ben to score more? I think that's what he and Daryl wants. I think the key we've talked about this before, and tomorrow night, I think we're doing a Ben Simmons preview podcast. Mm-hmm. We'll be on here live talking all about Ben Simmons and what to expect. But really, I think what they're going to ask for is for Ben to attack the rim, get to the line, live at the line, even if he doesn't shoot a good percentage from the outside or from the line. You're putting the other team in foul trouble. I think that's the main thing they're going to ask him to do. Austin, what do you think?
Jason, you and I have had this conversation privately many times. Ultimately, I think Ben is going to do what Ben wants to do, and that's going to be in some way, shape, or form get incrementally better without making himself look bad at any juncture.
Yep, I think he's got to be willing to sacrifice the short-term single possession right decision with the long-term benefits of setting teams up 1, 2, 3, 4 moves ahead. with these possessions, and that's the next jump that point guards make. I hope he makes it. He's got to think about all of the downstream effects of breaking teams down over the course of a game. Let's go last question. We're going to end on this. What's that?
Something quick I wanted to say about Ben Simmons that like shows progress and everything, like being with this MVP question. I don't think he's going to be MVP this year, but the fact that his free throw percentage has gone up like basically every year he's been in the league is something that's like obviously a really good sign to see. And about the question about whether they're going to ask him to score more, I think if he's going to be asked to be more aggressive, I think if he's shooting more free throws even a little bit better, he could be a 20 point a game scorer. Easy.
Yeah, I think so he's a 16, 17 point per game scorer for his career. Mm-hmm. He gets to the line about 5 times a game. And he shoots 62% last year. Yeah. If he gets to 70% and can get to the line 8.5 times per game, that changes everything about this team, and that puts him into that 20 point per game arena. And I think you have to be MVP in this league, you probably have to be a 25 point per game scorer. I don't remember the last MVP that didn't score 25 points per game. It's probably been like the late 90s, maybe a LeBron year.
Yeah, I think honestly,
as recent as last season, there were guys that averaging 30 who weren't even all-stars.
Yeah, it's the pace of the game. So MVP this year, I think he'd have to really do a couple of those things. Again, shoot 70% from the line, get to the line 9-10 times a game. His defense is there, his vision is there, but he's got to score 20 to 25 points per game to do.
And tell me your guys' opinion on this, but do you think that he has the possibility of becoming MVP with being alongside Joel Embiid? Like, yes. Do you think if Joel Embiid's on the team, because I feel like if this team has a chance on someone on the team winning the MVP, I feel like Joel is going to be the header of that. Like, he's going to be the one that has scored 30 points a game with 16 rebounds and, like, you know what I mean? So it's like –
Yeah, I think, though, it could happen. I look back at, like, Stockton and Malone. I guess Malone was the MVP because he was the guy that was the high raw points per game guy. Joel's probably always going to score more points per game, so I think you make a good point. But if Joel becomes really the defensive-oriented, dominant board guy, takes
board man gets paid.
What's that?
Board man gets paid.
Yeah, I think Ben, if they go to and win a championship, there's so many things that Ben will have his hand in for that to happen. Yeah. That I think the national narrative will really come around to viewing him as potentially the best player on the team. Because if they are a championship team, he might have to be the best player on that team.
Yeah, because he's always going to be the one defending the best guy. He's going to be the one with the ball in his hands, probably the most running up and down the court. So, I mean, I can
the most decisions.
That. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. All right, folks. Listen, we thank everyone. We know there's a bunch of you still on, but we're going to shut this down. And TPL Live will be back in about 10 minutes with Eagles pregame. So football talk. Just jump right back on when you see us go live again. And
to see us go live, subscribe, turn the notifications on, and you'll be able to see us go live whenever we're on here a lot. You'll see a lot of videos, a lot of Sixers content, especially coming up with all the preview videos. So just keep posted, subscribe, and you'll see them come up.
Also, we have gear at TeePublic. Go to tpublic.com, search TPL in the search bar. You can find T-shirts, mugs, phone cases, whatever you got, whatever you want. We got. Looking for an anniversary gift, a wedding gift, Christmas gift, a Hanukkah gift, a Valentine's Day gift. We got it all.
You can also find that store from our website. Just go to the top of the website, click on store, and the link will be there. It'll take you to it. So awesome. Justin, follow Justin at J_Persecity.
Yep.
On Twitter, NBA Krell Bombs. I'm scheduling a tweet for 10 years from now to check in on Shake's shooting. I'm Jay Blevins, NBA, and come back 10 minutes. We'll be talking about other guys will be talking about Monday Night Football. Thanks, folks.